What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another morning of Trending in the AM live here on DSM Media. Has Rob Thomson done enough to remove the interim tag from his manager title going forward? How should the Eagles be game planning for the Minnesota Vikings offense on Monday night? And was it a stupid move for the Chargers to leave their franchise quarterback out there when he clearly could not move late in the game? That and much, much more when we're back in 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front. And Philadelphia has it.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Trending in the AM live here on DSM Media. I'm your host for the day, Dylan Davis, still filling in for Phil Stiefel. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my co-host for the day, Jason. Check him out on Twitter at Mustaine3651. Jason, how are you doing this morning? I know you're tired.
I'm ready to go, man. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of topics, obviously local, but there's some obviously national things that you're going to touch on too. So I'm excited about it.
Absolutely, man. It's a football Friday, so we have to touch on some things around the league as a whole. But guys, we're streaming live here on DSM Media's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook channel. If you haven't already, check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. Check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are on. If you want to be interactive throughout the show this morning, head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's one click. Jason, why would people not want to subscribe to DSM Media with daily content coming out on the channel? But yeah, man, we have a lot going on for this morning, so it'll be interesting as we get all our points across. However, I want to start with the Philadelphia Phillies, right? Because they've kind of been in the background. They've been the second, third choice of topic here over the last 2 weeks or so. And I kind of want to bring them back to light for a second. Now, obviously, feels weird saying that when they finally lost the game. Like, they lost last night, and now we want to talk about them. But I want to talk about the manager. So the Phillies have their eyes set on ending that, 11-year playoff drought, that decade-long playoff drought that we've had here. And under Rob Thomson, the Phillies are, I believe, either 56-34 or 55-34. It is the third best record over that time in baseball, only behind the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves. I know you've talked about it with Phil on the show. I've discussed it with Phil on the show, and I kind of know your stance. And before, I was more so on, I was in between because I believed that he's going to get the job and that he will do enough at the time. But I wasn't saying in, early August, like, yeah, let's do it. Now, mid-September, knock on wood, it's looking more and more likely that playoff drought is going to end. And as long as he gets them into the dance, Rob Thomson has 110% done enough with this ball club this year to be, if not, I'm not saying the long-term answer, but he should be the manager of this ball club next year for the full year. He doesn't have to win a playoff series. It doesn't matter if they get swept by the Braves or the Mets. If they get in with the way the season started and all the injuries they've gone through, he has done enough. What do you say?
What do I say? Somewhere in sunny Mexico, Phil is having chest
an aneurysm
right now.
Yeah.
Because obviously he doesn't think, but he's not here anyway. I'm just busting chops. Where I stand is absolutely if the Phillies make the playoffs, which I believe they will, but I said in order for me to make that decision and come to that conclusion, I need them to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, Rob Thomson deserves next year. Am I saying he's the long-term guy? Absolutely not. I don't think you have to make that kind of a decision, nor do I think you have to commit to a long-term situation. I think the only time teams tend to do that is when they go after a high-profile guy, and we don't need that. Right now, this team needs somebody that gets the best out of the players, and I think Rob Thompson's done a tremendous job. I mean, third best record overall since, since he's taken over.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's saying a lot. And if you look at the Phillies, even though they've gone into some lulls where they struggle, they don't go into it for a long time as far as the record. I mean, I know their offense kind of goes in, dribs and drabs, and same with their pitching. It's kind of been on and off, but they don't go into long-term losing streaks, and that's what I like. I like the sign that Rob Thomson has this team mentally prepared, especially when they come, and they do lose a couple games and they struggle. He gets them to refocus, and the energy shows. And I got to be honest with you. I think one of the biggest things that, and a lot of people aren't even talking about it at this point, I heard it talked about early in the year, but I think it's kind of been forgotten, is the fact that Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott have pretty much played every single day since Rob's taken over. Like, there's been a couple times where they were taken out here and there for rest, but they've been the answer at their positions. And, how many times have we seen in the past where managers have kind of not went with the young guys, and they always
we saw it in June here. Yeah.
Example. I mean, I just think a lot of things that Rob Thomson does, I like. Now, are there things that he does that I don't like? Absolutely. But
that's all managers. And good morning, Joe. I know. Phil's in sunny Mexico at the moment, so I'll be filling in today and the first half of next week. So we'll have some fun. But dude, I agree with you. And here's the thing: have they gone over some struggles and some losing streaks? Absolutely. All teams do. And they've lost 5 games here, 4 games here. But guess what? Guess what he does? When their backs are against the wall and it feels like the season's going to come crumbling down, and here comes that famous Phillies late season collapse that we all know and love. We've seen this movie before. He doesn't just snap them out of it and end the losing streak. Jason, they go on a 6, 7, or 8 game winning streak following that. That's the important thing. And sure, you can throw at me, oh, it's the Nationals, it's the Marlins, it's the it doesn't matter. You only play who's in front of you. And early on in the season, when the series were tougher, they had success. I don't know how many times I had to beat that drum. There's a reason they hold the tiebreakers over all the teams around them in the playoff run. There's a reason for that, guys, because they beat them earlier on in the year.
I got news for you. The Marlins and teams like the Washington Nationals, that's the teams that the Phillies usually lose to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point. That's why it feels different, right? That's why it feels different. And you brought up letting the daycare play. And sometimes you're right. We don't always agree with them. And sometimes the back end of the lineup looks a little messy because of some of the injuries and when he decides to rest some guys and give them days off. But the last 2 times he decided to sit Stott, and everyone was, myself included, like, dude, what are you doing? You can hit lefties. Edmundo Sosa wins him a freaking game. Now, is that partially luck? For sure. I mean, we never expected Edmundo Sosa to go 3 for 4 with a dinger and a double off the right field fence. But guess what? He did it, and Joe pressed that button. Has he had some flaws with the bullpen when they were injured and tired? Yeah, he did. How much of that is on him? And exactly what I said, you don't have Sir Anthony. You didn't have Kunra at the time. You lost Knable. And the other guy, Robertson was used in 4 straight days and 2 innings in 1. So all those things go into effect, and it's very easy for us to sit here the next day and in hindsight, and we have to do it. We're analyzing what happened, so it's okay to hold them accountable. But it is very easy for us to say those kind of things and not be in his situation the night before. Okay, for instance, Jason, if you didn't have Sir Anthony, Knable, Coonrod, and Robertson was basically on the shelf because he had to throw the last 4 days out of necessity, and it gets to the 8th inning in a 1-run ball game, and you have the choices of Nick Nelson, Andrew Bellotti, and whatever, one more, Brad Hand, right? And of course, or Connor Brogdon. I mean, because you're throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks at that point in the 8th and 9th inning, right? So it's not his fault if Brogdon comes in and gives up a 3-run jack. What was the alternative? Nick Nelson? So those are the kind of things that you can't nitpick that much at a baseball manager's philosophy. That's my thing.
I agree 100%, Dylan. the biggest thing for me that I get frustrated with when I see people kind of, I don't want to say criticize, because like I said, everyone deserves criticism when they're wrong.
Right.
But is the fact that people continue to say that, his managerial decisions aren't, sound decisions. And I have to disagree, because like I said, I think the most important part of a manager's job, and this is just my opinion, especially in baseball, because in baseball you have managers and they have leadership qualities. But in baseball, the real leaders are the clubhouse. It's the players. And we've talked about how the Phillies situation, Bryce Harper's like the silent leader. He leads by example. He doesn't really he's not one of these rah-rah guys. That's just not Bryce Harper. It's not. You can't.
It doesn't seem like it's him.
That's not his personality. We thought maybe when we signed Nick Castellanos that we were getting that, because he has that brash kind of,
personality,
bad boy image. You know what I'm talking about. But we obviously haven't. We're not in the clubhouse, so we don't see what's going on. But so far, I don't see that from Nick Castellanos. I thought maybe Schwarber, but I haven't seen it either. So I don't know if the Phillies necessarily have that type of leader on their team right now, and that's okay. But I'm just saying, in general,
it emphasizes what the manager has to do.
Exactly, it's kind of like a yin and a yang. The manager kind of runs the team, and we said a lot of times when you look at baseball managers, yes, they can lose you a couple games, but they can also win you a couple games. But they're not that much of a difference maker to the point where you're like, oh my God, that manager is
unless you're Joe Girardi.
Unless you're bad. If you're a bad manager, you can make a total.
That's a great segue to my next point, because when you mentioned what a manager does, yes, he has to have those leadership qualities, get the most out of your guys. But the first step before getting the most out of your guys is putting them in a position to succeed, right? So what do I mean by that? Playing the younger guys every day, having your lineup in a fixed order, putting guys in spots in the lineup where they can thrive, having your bullpen kind of set up where guys are comfortable, right? And to your point, unless you're bad like Joe Girardi, where Didi Gregorius is playing every day and not Bryson Stott, where you're switching up the leadoff batter every other 3 games, where so unless you're to that extent of just keep moving things around or not listening to people, that's how you can lose games. What has Thomson done? Don't get me wrong, the bullpen has shuffled a bit. I feel like that's more so due to injury than anything else and out of necessity. The lineup, outside of injuries, it's been a basically stable kind of lineup. Stott has played almost every day, right? So he's done step one, putting guys in a position to succeed and thrive in where they're at. And then he brings out the best in them. It seems like what's the other argument? You can't tell me, well, how do you know they're winning? Are they not? JT's on fire, right? Bryce, even though the pop's not there, Bryce is hitting well. Bohm's on fire. Stott's on fire. Segura's on fire. So, you can't tell me he's not getting the most out of the guys.
I mean, the evidence is there. The evidence is the record and the way that this team's performed since he's taken over. I mean, like you said, there's really not an argument that anybody can make. I firmly believe that if Joe Girardi would have been let go earlier, or even right away, when they started shit in the bed, I believe we could be really talking right now about possibly contending for the division. I still think it's still possible. I mean, will it happen? Probably not.
Yeah, the Mets won last night. We lost last night. So it takes a little bit of a hit there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in general.
The fact that they could finish 5 or 6 games.
Right now, I think you're guaranteed you would be even better. And the funny thing is that every one of us, I mean, listen, we're starving because it's been since 2011 since this Phillies team has made a playoff. I mean, I remember that 06 through 2012, and it feels like it was 25 years ago, even though it's only been 10 years. But it just seems so long because we've went through so many dormant lineups and
Oh.
it's just been god
Oh, have
awful.
you
And
some of them, like when people post them on Twitter, like this was the Phillies lineup 6 years ago? How did we watch that?
I mean, it was like almost like we were in the Sixers process without calling it that.
Yeah. But
Literally.
without any plan, without any
Without having
without building to anything. We were able to sign Bryce Harper, and that kind of switched everything around. We were able to bring in pieces of free agency. Could you imagine if they never got Bryce? We would still be in purgatory.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryce Harper was like definitely the crown jewel. And I know there were so many people, and I'm not gonna lie, dude. I wanted Manny Machado. But then like when I kind of like looked deeper in the numbers and I started looking, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I want it. I'm selfish. I wanted both of them.
Oh yeah.
I remember there was like talk that the
Yeah.
Phillies might sign both, and it was like, oh my god, like that would be
Yeah.
But like obviously, like I remember when Manny Machado visited, and that like it was funny, like that fan walked up to him, and that I just remember that whole thing. And then I remember when he signed with San Diego, and I'm like, well, maybe we dodged a bullet, because like I like Manny Machado, but like I think Bryce Harper brings another element that Manny Machado doesn't have. Manny Machado's an all-star third baseman. He's a great hitter, plays awesome defense, but there's something missing with Manny Machado that Bryce Harper has. And to me, it's like that. I don't know the word to put on it, but it's basically he brings an element of energy to the team because of the way that
so I was going to say leader. Yeah, he's not like a leader, like vocal, like we talked about, at least that we know of. But he feels like a leader. Machado doesn't give off that kind of energy or that vibe, like you said.
Yeah. So anyway, I know I just went off on a tangent.
Oh no.
I think you're right. Like I think sometimes like we take for granted that we have Bryce Harper. It's like, and I remember like his first season, he didn't perform like it was an awesome season, but like we were like, oh my god, that's not like really.
I think he hit what 2? I think he hit like 270. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was even lower.
It was like real low, but he had 35 home runs. But then like obviously he had the COVID year. But then like last year, I remember like obviously I was the poster child for it. I didn't say get rid of him, but I was like I was bashing Bryce Harper and like
to sign it. Yeah.
And obviously that second half was like a second half that we haven't seen since Ryan Howard. Like So Bryce Harper is like ultimately, yes, he's the reason this team kind of moved forward. Because had we not got him, you're right.
I don't know what
Schwarber and Castle. We don't get anybody. I don't.
No, you don't have JT here. I don't know what you're looking at if Bryce does not decide to sign in Philadelphia. For honestly, but listen, dude, I was a preteen the last time we made the playoffs. I'm in my mid-20s. It feels like put it this way. I have not watched meaningful Phillies baseball in my adult life. In basically in my teenage life, I didn't get to watch it.
And now you're, God willing, hopefully going to be able to.
Yeah, right. Like it's
and like you said, it win or lose, it's just exciting to get in. Once you're in, it gives you a taste.
And my biggest thing, Steve, I had Steve on the show. He's the host of Fist First here on DSM yesterday, and it's something him and I have been talking about. He's my college roommate, and we had been talking about it since we kind of signed Bryce. And you talked about that energy and just kind of that big game Bryce feel, right? And just get me Bryce in the playoffs. Like, just get me that energy, because you're like, I get it, man. Are they better than the Braves if they played the Mets? No, we know they've struggled against the Mets, especially without Bryce. Anything can happen in a 3-game playoff series and then moving forward. So miss me with they'll get smoked. No, they won't. They are far too talented to get smoked in a 3-game series. I just can't buy into that.
Listen, my counterpart, Aaron, he's obviously a diehard Mets fan.
By the way, Aaron, I'm sorry. Jason, you know how he came on and said they haven't lost 3 in a row all year? Yeah, well, I bet on them again against the Cubs, and they got swept against the Cubs. So there's your 3 in a row, Aaron.
I know.
Bullshit.
This is the Daily Aaron segment.
Yeah.
We got to have him on. I think if we are going to face the Mets anymore this year, if not,
No, that's done. Unless we got
we'll
to the
bring him
playoffs.
maybe when we get towards the playoffs.
Postseason.
Like Phil and I had talked about. Anyway, but even he's a baseball guy, and he would tell you, like, as much as he knows that the Mets are like obviously superior right now. Once you get in the playoffs, like a 3-game series, it could go either way. Like,
yeah, man.
And don't forget, like, sooner or later, the bad luck that we've had and the bad mojo, it's got to go the other way. So sooner or later, the Phillies are going to get theirs against the Mets. And how great would it be? I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, how great would it be if we faced the Mets in the first round and we just knocked them out? Like,
that's what they did.
After going only 4 wins and 15 losses against them.
Yeah, 4 and 14
regular season. Like that to me would be the ultimate icing on the cake, just to be able to say F you.
Well, I don't know if it was the season we won the World Series, but we played the Dodgers in the postseason, so it probably was that postseason. The Phillies went 1 and I forget the regular season record, but like 1-11 against the Dodgers that year, and then beat them. Like anything can happen in a play specific, and that's a 7-game series. I'm talking a short 3-game series. Anything can most definitely happen. But let's shift gears to kind of that playoff picture, right? Because something's happening right now within the Phillies team. They're starting to get a little bit healthy, Jason. And you saw Zach Eflin come back 2 nights ago, and he threw in the bullpen, and he was lights. Listen, he's coming off being out for a while, a long-term injury here with his elbow. And I don't foresee him being thrown right back into the fire in a playoff run and starting games again. I love the idea of Eflin coming out of the bullpen, right? But even if you put him in the bullpen, when Zach Wheeler comes back, you're going to have Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Kyle Gibson, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Eflin would be 6, and then Bailey Falter, who we would assume in recent history, he would be the odd man out. However, Bailey Falter, as you said the other day, has not faltered and has quite literally been their second best pitcher over the last month and a half of baseball, and pitched against in big time situations in big games. That game against the Mets, obviously, it's their only win of the 4-game series, right? Like, so what do you do? And then you watch. My point is, you watch Syndergaard, who I like the acquisition. He's been up and down. He's had some really strong starts, 7 1/3, 2 hit. Like been really good. He's also struggled. He took the loss last night. Gave up 4 in like the first 3 or 4 innings. Gibson, we know, is up and down. Ranger has been up and down. So we know when Wheeler comes back, you're going to have Wheeler and Nola. What do you do with the rest of that rotation? Because you realistically have 5 more arms if you include Eflin.
I mean, honestly, I'd like to go with the hot hand. But the baseball purist in me knows that sometimes that could backfire. Yeah. And, you need to go with somebody that's
a little more proven.
I don't want to say proven, but like a lot of times I think the times where you see, younger guys or rookies struggle is when you get to that playoffs and that extra level of pressure. And I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I think Kyle Gibson would probably be your best bet, even though I know he's like so inconsistent, only because of being that veteran. And I would have to look. I don't know if he made the playoffs when he was with the Rangers. I don't know. But if it's not going to be Kyle Gibson, then I'm a little nervous. Syndergaard makes me nervous. I know he's a big name. And he's helped us kind of down the stretch, and we traded for him to get us to the playoffs. But I don't think you necessarily have to use a guy like that. But my concern is that he has that big name value, and I just hope they don't just say, oh, well, let's just go with Syndergaard. Like, I hope Rob Thomson, really does his homework and kind of positions this team to have the best, 4 starters or whatever you're going to have in the playoffs.
Let me ask you this. Is there a way where you eliminate the front end of the bullpen and take it almost like how they would pitch in an all-star game? And let's say you were to start Kyle Gibson and he starts to get hit a little bit in the 4th inning, and before things kind of get out of hand, you call for Zach Eflin's name, or you start with Syndergaard and he starts to get out of hand, you call for Kyle Gibson's name. Is when you have 7 arms, they're not going to be, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can somewhat kind of do something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so obviously it would be Wheeler, Nolan, and then you could do a rotation.
I thought Ranger locked it up like 3 weeks ago. He's been up and down again, so it's tough.
Because I guess if you want to be an analytics guy, look at the numbers. I mean, maybe what team are you facing? Who has better numbers against that team?
Right.
Like, I know that sounds stupid, but like, if you have a guy
who's pitched better on the road this
if you have
season.
If you have I'm just giving an example. Like, if Zach Eflin is 5-1 against the the Braves and 2 ERA, then I'm going with Zach Eflin. Like, I think you want to go with like who's the best matchup. But I think the Philly, in one sense, it's like we're like, oh my God, this is a conundrum. But in another way to look at it is this is actually awesome because we have like versatility here. We can kind of switch it up. If somebody struggles, then we have another guy that we can just plop in there.
Right. It's not like you're stuck with just Noah Syndergaard or just Bailey Falter.
Yeah. I think it could be a blessing in disguise that you have more arms, especially at this time of the year, because let's face it, most teams are struggling injury-wise and run down. And you're right, the Phillies are kind of like coming back to like life here. I mean, could we get Castellanos back too? I haven't heard anything about that. But
I haven't. The only thing I read the other day was that he does have a little bit more time to go because he's got to get back in the field because he can't DH with Bryce in that spot. So whatever his injury, I remember he had the turf toe injury. And if there was something else that was bothering him, he has to be able to play right field on a nightly basis before he's back. Are you starting to get worried about Zach Wheeler? Because I have not heard an update or seen an update from that either. And I feel like we're going on like start number 4, and they said it could only be 2 or 3 starts.
Yeah, I said that the other day to you. But
yeah,
I don't. I mean, I think if it was going to be like a season anything, they would have said it by now. I kind of feel like, why would you keep that under wraps? Like,
maybe they're holding out hope.
Probably just being precautionary here and saying, well, we're doing well with. I mean, not well, but you know what I mean. They're doing still without him. Why rush it? Maybe just bring him back for like the last week of the season.
The last start,
have him start his last start, so he gets some work. But then my concern with that is he going to be fully ready for the playoffs? Like, it's only a week, 3 days later that it starts. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've been nervous about Zach Wheeler. That's the only thing that I've always said about him is that as great as that year was that he had last year, like, he still has a lengthy arm. His arm history is not good. Like, he's quite a few arm injuries with the Mets. I mean, obviously he had the Tommy John. And I know players, it's not the same. It's not a death sentence. Pitchers actually come back better after it. But I'm still concerned anytime a guy with high velocity has an arm issue. I mean, let's face it.
That's what Syndergaard had, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Syndergaard was out a year and a half almost.
And Syndergaard pumped 100, and now Syndergaard pumps about 94.
Yes. Well, like I said, some guys actually get better after it, but you see other guys. I think guys that are older have a harder time kind of, and
Yeah.
Syndergaard's not old by any stretch.
No.
He's I think 27. He's still not what I would consider old for a pitcher. I mean, Jamie Moyer was what in a World Series at 47, 46.
Yeah.
I
How
mean,
old
he
was
my
Brett
age.
Myers in that series?
Brett Myers was pushing
Was in his
40.
30s.
I think he
Yeah.
was late 30s.
Yeah, it was
Um,
that was nuts, man.
But yeah, so like I said, I'm nervous, but I guess hopefully we'll get some news here in the next week or two.
I agree, man. Look at that. That was damn near perfect. 30 minutes and 13 seconds, half and half. That's what we want to do here. So let's move on to the Birds. Obviously, Eagles coming off of a 38-35 win against the Lions in week 1. A lot of negativity this week, Jason. I kind of want to turn that around. And how can we do that? By focusing on the Vikings game. Now, obviously, we're not going to give any predictions. We're not totally going to break this game down because guess what, guys? We're going to do that Monday. So I just want to kind of give an early kind of sample of a game plan, what you're looking at defensively and offensively. But let's start on the defensive side of the ball because that's where all of that worry and negativity has come throughout this week because of how the defense folded late in the game against the Lions, giving up 35 points, almost blowing the game in the lead, right? So now everyone's running around in circles. Everyone's freaking out about what are they going to do Monday night. I'll throw this to you. I actually think they come out and kind of shut us up. I think that the defense is the part of the team that shows up on Monday night, and this game's closer on the offensive side of the ball. But my question to you would be, what if you're Jonathan? If you're Jonathan, again, that's a scary thought. But if you're this Eagles defense, what would you be honing in on if you were the defensive coordinator? Because everyone's focus is on, oh my, can they stop J-Jeff? How are they going to slow down Justin Jefferson? Don't forget about Thielen, Kirk, blah, blah, blah. My thing is, what did you get torched with from opening kickoff to the final whistle last Sunday on the ground? Who do the Vikings have? A better offensive line, Dalvin Cook, and then Madison's no scrub, as that second running back in that tandem, right? To me, you have to slow down the run first because if you don't slow down the run and Dalvin Cook and this Vikings offense has success the way Detroit had success, I can't imagine what Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins are going to do to you in the air over the course of the game if they can run the ball on first and second down. That is going to be so to me, obviously, I'm not forget Justin Jefferson, but you have to stop the run, slow down the run first, then game plan for the over-the-top stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best bet, this is what I would do. I would just put Jordan Davis in there and let him run, let it rip. Like,
what a thought process, right?
Why is
it's so hard, Johnny. Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? You put him out there and they give up more yards rushing. I mean, to me, you can only go up from what they did. 144 yards to DeAndre Swift, and Dalvin Cook is a more versatile type back.
And Dalvin Cook's a better back. I love DeAndre Swift. He's a lot better of a running back.
And he's bigger. He can hit the holes. Swift maybe be a little more swifty.
There you go. I like that.
I think Dalvin Cook, I think you're right. I think you have to focus on eliminate what hurt them last game.
Right.
But I wouldn't over. My problem is I see a lot of times where teams on any kind of sport, have a bad, either
right. And hyper focus on fixing that problem.
They kind of overdo it, and then worry about not worry about obviously limiting Justin. Like I think we talked about this earlier in the week. Justin Jefferson is going to get his. He's a guy that is basically he's the number one wide receiver. Probably he's our generation. He's going to be like
right.
Terrell Owens, Randy Moss. I'm already saying he is. He already broke Randy Moss's records. Like the guy is just ridiculously talented. So he's going to get his, catches. I would make sure that you're stopping the other guys. I'm not saying let Justin Jefferson go for 300 yards,
right.
But I think that you have to kind of
hold him out of the end zone.
Adjust your coverage so that you keep Justin Jefferson in those slant kind of catches and adjust your yards after the catch. Don't miss your tackles. You have to tackle. And that's a big thing. Like, and that's another concern I have with this team under Jonathan Gannon. Like, it doesn't seem like Jonathan Gannon preaches the fundamentals, and tackling is 101. Like, you have a guy, it's kind of point of attack.
Yeah, they were 32 out of 32 last week.
But I know enough about the game to, from watching it, to know that the Eagles struggle with tackling. So if you're not going to work on that and focus on that, you're going to have big problems because
for sure. And the Vikings have two big physical running backs as well. Now, obviously, both have speed, but both are going to punch you in the mouth in a gap, and you better be able to do not let them get into the second level. That was a huge problem against the Lions, man. There was no contact at the line of scrimmage. There was a hole bigger than my living room, and then Swift and company were able to get into the second level, into the safeties and corners. And now the safeties and corners have to, instead of worrying about covering all day, have to worry about pulling down DeAndre Swift to the ground every other freaking play. So that took a toll on them as well. I agree with you. Let Justin Jefferson get his. You have to limit what his is, as I said the other day. Justin Jefferson can't go for 185 and 2 tutties. If that's his, you're in for a long night. But if Justin Jefferson can be held right around 100 yards, maybe keep him out of the end zone, I think you had a successful night. Let me ask you this. We know what Darius Slay is, and James Bradbury was incredibly impressive last Sunday. Are you letting Slay follow around Justin Jefferson? I know he kind of loves it. He likes doing it. He kind of thrives in it a little bit. Or are you kind of giving them one side of the field, and wherever Jefferson is, you're kind of going with that matchup?
No, I would definitely have somebody on him, because my concern with Justin Jefferson, and I love Avonte Maddox in the slot, because I think that's he's played his best football in that slot.
Yeah.
He is a mismatch nightmare for Justin Jefferson. Like, Justin Jefferson, if he's allowed to kind of run those slot routes, he's going to kill us.
Which they will put him there.
I'm sorry. No, I would definitely have Slay, following that guy wherever he goes. Like, if he's, on the
Let me ask you something. Something that, again, we all focused on the safety position, and obviously so. If they try to exploit that mismatch, because it will be a mismatch, I'm not trying to shade Avonte Maddox, but it will be a mismatch. Scotty, that's what I'm getting to. He's a top 3 slot corner in all the nickel corner in all the National Football League. Do you put him in the slot more so if that's where Justin Jefferson is kind of hovering around to kind of exploit that? Maddox has played safety in the past. I'd be more worried about Jefferson in the slot than, KJ Osborne beating me over the top and needing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back there for help.
I think it's an awesome idea, because I think Justin Jefferson has proven he's not just a deep threat. He can do it all.
Right.
Justin Jefferson, believe it or not, I think A.J. Brown is like on kind of that level. Like, A.J. Brown can run every single route, and he's big.
Right.
He's bigger than Justin Jefferson, so he's not as fast.
Right.
But where Justin Jefferson seems to, like, thrive is when he does those, like, slant and then ins. I watched it. I was watching replay of the Packers Vikings, and there was that one play. Justin Jefferson was like 30 yards. They showed the whole screen, and here was Justin Jefferson, and there was not one player around him.
Did you notice when he caught the ball, he took a step backwards because he was assuming somebody was going to be there. He hopped backwards towards the offense, away from the end zone, turned and said, "Oh my God, there's nobody here," and took it right into the end zone.
Yeah, he, like I said, he's a special talent, and I'm not expecting that we're going to stop him. But I do think I like Scotty's idea. I don't think it matters who it is, but if you're going to pick Chauncey, that's fine. But I think somebody has to kind of
follow,
mirror Justin Jefferson. Like, he's got to be your main attention. And I'm not saying, like, have everybody on Jefferson and then because they do have Thielen, who Adam Thielen is like one of those guys that's like better than he's ever gets credit for. Like he's just an underrated type wide receiver. Like he's really done a fabulous job. He's just kind of forgotten now.
He's maybe the best number. He's one of the best number twos in.
He really is,
football.
and he could hurt you. And he's had game. I've saw times last year where teams did take Justin Jefferson totally out of the game plan, and Adam Thielen went for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, so you can't forget that guy. I know their tight end isn't really talked about, but he's kind of he's a physical specimen, Irv Smith, and he's just had an injury problem. But he's a guy like I'm just kind of. Irv Smith has been waiting for a breakout for like 4 years, and it's just every year he gets hurt.
So this is the main sticking point for me. This game, right? This is an early season test. Now let's have a level head. If the Eagles lose the game, let's not freak out. We know it was a losable game, one of the losable games on the schedule. It's definitely going to matter in which fashion they kind of lose the game, which fashion the defense shows up. But to Scotty's point, this is why you bring in James Bradbury. This is why you bring in everybody you did defensively. All these names, all this talent. It is put up or shut up time for Jonathan Gannon. We knew that heading into the year, and now after week 1, it's being emphasized and put under a microscope even more. For some odd reason, I had this gut feeling that they put up this week. And that the defense shows out. But Scotty, you're right. It's not Brad. It's Bradbury. It's CGJ. It's Kaiser White. It's why you drafted Jordan Davis. It's all these guys put together. It's to limit these high-power type of offenses. Listen, I know, to your point, Jason, Justin Jefferson got his against Green Bay, did he not? But guess what? They only scored 23 points. Now, it was a blowout because Green Bay's offense couldn't do anything. If you can hold Minnesota to 23 points, that's a pretty damn good job in my mind.
Yeah, but the difference is that they didn't stop Dalvin Cook. So that's why I think your original point of making that your number one focus, stopping the run. And here's the kicker. We're talking about, Chauncey Gardner. We're talking about Slay. We're talking about the secondary. If we do not put pressure on a quarterback, I don't care who you have back there, you will get picked apart. And Kirk Cousins is like the poster child for that, having a good regular season game and then obviously not being able to get to the playoffs. But Kirk Cousins will pick you apart, dude. If you thought Jared Goff picked us apart at that end of that game,
hey man, I agree.
Kirk Cousins is kind of like, he's a guy. He's got a quick release.
He's got a big arm.
I'm telling you right now, if we do not blitz, I am going to be furious. I am so tired of this, Jonathan Gannon. It's almost,
can I ask you a question? So I agree. Like, we're going to be furious if Jonathan Gannon doesn't bring any pressure like we saw last year. But how about, like, I agree. But at the same time, how about the front four does what they get paid to do, and you create some pressure on your defenses all across the league? I watched on Sunday be able to create pressure and get to the quarterback with their front four alone. We put in the most money and had the biggest rotation of guys to keep them fresh, and they're supposed to be so dominant, and we get no pressure with our front four. This is a Hassan Reddick game. This has to be an Hassan Reddick game.
And Dylan, this is where I think, you know how like every time that we've had like high draft picks, obviously we took Wentz, and then we took, you look at all these teams that have those defenses, most of them were like bad teams at one point, and they got a high draft pick and they took that high pick defensive end. Yeah. Those guys, they don't grow on trees, but the only way to get them guys are when you're bad. Like, or if you sign a free agent, like, obviously JJ Watt. But like, we don't have that elite defensive end. We have Reddick, but Reddick needs to be used right. And that's Jonathan Gannon. That is Jonathan Gannon. And you brought the guy here. He has all the tools in the kitchen, but you're not allowing him to use those tools.
Right.
You're not. Why was he
I agree.
Coverage last week? Like, come on, man.
Josh Sweat dropped back into coverage last week. I'm not saying you can never, but I mean, my God, dude.
Dude, I think it honestly, we're gonna know real quick if Jonathan Gannon is like
you're gonna know Monday night.
Yeah.
You're going to know. Listen, I'll give you somewhat of leniency for this past week. It was week 1. Maybe the Lions weren't as bad as we think. You had a big lead. You still won the game, whatever. If you come out on Monday night in the home opener and you implement the same bullshit scheme, the same lack of pressure, the same lack of use, the same lack of personnel use, and you get your asses kicked on the defensive end, his leash is gone. There needs to be a conversation the next morning, and they need to figure it out quick. Because, my God, if this defense with all this talent comes out and gives up 30-plus in back-to-back weeks, I don't care if it's the first 2 weeks of the season. That is unforgivable with all this talent.
Dude, if he does that, DSM is going to blow a gasket.
Yeah, yeah.
We are going to blow a gasket.
For some reason, I said this earlier, I agree with you, Scotty. I think they kind of shut us up for the I think they come to play. And if they come to play, then you're going to hear the opposite side. Oh, I kind of see the genius, right? If he holds them to 17. So it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out, but it definitely starts on the defensive side of the ball. But guess what, Jason, as Green Bay proved to you last week, you have to be able to score points. So game planning from the offensive side, what would you be looking to do against this Minnesota defense, who is a little bit better tooled than they were last year? Danielle Hunter is going to be going against Lane Johnson. So are you looking to run the ball a little bit more? Are you looking to establish the RPOs, which worked a decent amount last week? Are you looking to stretch the field and get one of the 2 or 3 wide receivers and Dallas Goedert force-fed? How would you attack Minnesota this week?
Yeah, I think it all starts up front. The offensive line has to play better. I mean, let's face it.
For sure.
We're talking about the defense, but the offensive line was like awful. But the offensive line, we know, coming into the season was ranked as the number 1 offensive line in football.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them.
Well, they need to play that way, though.
Yeah.
So let's look at last week, like you said, the difference between force feeding and going to the hot hand.
Right.
Last week was definitely a situation where it was the hot hand, A.J. Brown. It was not force feeding. He was just he was a mismatch.
It was a mismatch, yeah.
So I say exploit the my game plan is exploit the mismatches, but I think it starts up front, and I think you need to establish the run. I think I want to see more Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders showed me. I was very happy with Miles Sanders.
Me too.
I was. He looks fresh, and he was, he wasn't doing as much dancing as he usually does. It was more like kind of straight line running. I think I would like to see. I like the RPOs. I don't want Hurts running around as much. Now, obviously, if the offensive line plays better,
out of necessity. So let me throw this to you, right? Because you brought up the offensive line being better, and then you just hit the point of what we talked about against the Lions. It was out of necessity. Is there any which point, if you're Jalen Hurts and or Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen, when you're coming up with this game plan or in game, you have to be able to adjust in game and counter what a defense is doing. So my point is this: last week I gave Hurts a pass because the offensive line had a bunch of mistakes up front, and Detroit was bringing the house. But you knew Detroit was bringing the house pre-snap. You could see it on your television multiple times. He ran out of necessity. If Minnesota on the first possession or two is stacking the box and bringing pressure and they're rushing 6 and 7 and the offensive line can't handle it, you have to counter that and get and be able to audible and adjust and get the ball, like design a quick hitter, design to take off to alleviate that pressure and let them know, yo, you're not going to be able to do this against me. They didn't do that last week. Last week was Hurts making plays with his legs, escaping pressure. If Minnesota tries to do the same thing, adjust, counter, audible, and get the ball out of his hands quick and draw things up to alleviate that kind of mismatch up front.
Dude, you're 100%. Like you must be like reading my mind. So one of the biggest like one of the things that exemplified the Andy Reid era, and when Donovan McNabb, you had Westbrook.
Right.
We were awesome at screens.
Yep.
Quick screens, little bubble screens, quick
Flip
screens,
screens,
tight
yeah.
end screen, like the screen.
Right.
And unfortunately, it seems like with this team, like with Sirianni, screens don't exist. And I don't know why, because they're a quarterback's best friend. And it's basically used for when that's happening. When you're when your quarterback is getting so much pressure, just starts throwing off some screen passes. Like start designing some quick, little screens to Miles Sanders. You have Kenny Gainwell, who I loved in college, by the way.
Yeah.
We suck, but we don't do them.
Yeah, but it also makes no sense for them to. It has to be the scheme, because or the design. Because if you think the offensive line is more than athletic and capable enough to be able to get upfield and block in those type of situations. Whether it's a Kenny Gainwell or a Boston Scott or your athletic tight end in Dallas Goedert or a Quez Watt, the guys are athletic and quick enough to pull. So like, what's the disconnect? It's not the personnel. It has to be the design of the screen that's not working.
I mean, we were told that Nick Sirianni was such a brilliant mind and that Shane Steichen is a brilliant mind. And I get it that he kind of gave Shane Steichen more of the duties, but at the end of the day, he's still the play call. Like, come on. Like, he's involved. Well, dude, that's your job. We were told that you were this like superstar hotshot guy that has all this knowledge. And well, you need to start bringing it to the table, because I think our offense is still quite vanilla compared to what it could be with the weapons that we have. Like, I see some of these teams, man, doing plays that I've never seen before. Like, even new, or coaches that have been doing it, even the McVays of the world have new plays every single year. And it just seems to me like, now, is this a case of, well, they're still not letting the training wheels off? I mean, this is Jalen Hurts' third year now.
Yeah, I think also week one has, like, the fact that we talked about that feeding the hot hand, exploiting the mismatch, the fact that so much attention went to A.J. Brown, it was hard to kind of get a grasp on what the offense is now, because another week, if you see him spread the ball around, you might see more of a different looking offense, because it's like, oh, that's new. That last week we kind of saw same guy, different routes, different styles, but I get your point. Like, you saw the same thing on repeat last week. We'll see how it looks when he distributes the ball a little bit more around. Maybe that'll look different, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more explosive, I should say. But Scotty, but this is my point, Scotty. I gave Hurts credit and I let Sirianni off the hook last week. If Minnesota is lining up, showing blitzing, and blowing up in your backfield, after the first, second, or third time, that needs to be countered. They did not counter it last week. It was all Hurts making plays with his legs. You need to counter it and not rely on this kid to have the escapability and the athleticism to get away from it. To hit them with a quick screen, a quick slant. I don't even know if it's simple. You have to counter it and let Minnesota know. Try that again, because next time you do it, I'm taking the screen to the house. That's what's going to happen. Now, Scotty asked up above, Jason, last little thing here on the Eagles offense. He basically said, whose game, again, we'll talk more about this on Monday morning, but whose game kind of is this? Is this a Goddard game? Is this a Devontae Smith game? Is this AJ again? Where's Quez Watkins? Does he show up on Monday night? So if you had to pick basically like a standout player on offense, where do you think they look to go? You don't think they try to force feed Devontae Smith this week, do you? After all the talk all week?
I mean, I hope not.
Because that would be a mistake. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Devontae Smith get the ball in his hands. Don't force it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Devonta Smith did drop a pass. It wasn't like he was not targeted at all.
Right. He had a catch called back for an offensive penalty.
Listen, Devonta Smith is a great talent, but we obviously know AJ Brown is the number one. Yeah. I think, if you want my honest opinion, and I know I say it every week, but I still think that Dallas Goedert I know I say he's going to have a breakout, and it's hard to say breakout when he had a great year last year, but I just think Dallas Goedert is so talented, and I don't think he's used enough. Like, he's not.
I agree.
He's not. I don't know if, like, Jalen Hurts, I'm not saying, like, he's not looking his way, but he needs to have better chemistry with Dallas Goedert, because Dallas Goedert, I really believe, like, I don't know. I don't want to sound.
He's a walking mismatch, I think.
Yeah, I love the guy, and I think he will. I think he'll have a big game this week. I do. I think AJ Brown will have another big game, but I think Dallas Goedert will be the I don't want to say featured. I think he'll have 6 or 7 catches this week. That's what I'm looking at.
But yeah, that's kind of my point with Goddard, man. That's why I thought again, week 1. I said that he would be the biggest beneficiary outside of Jalen Hurts, obviously, on offense, in terms of the AJ Brown acquisition, because before with just Devontae Smith in his rookie year and Quez Watkins, teams could take away that mismatch. They can double Goddard. They can take away the middle of the field. When you spread teams,
have wide receivers,
right? When you spread teams out 4 or 5 wide and Goddard's over the middle of the field, AJ Brown's here, and the speed in the slots here, and Devontae Smith's over here, and Jalen Hurts can use his legs, you can't lock in on Dallas Goedert. You can't take away the middle of the field. And if you try to do that, that's the route you go. One of those wide receivers is going to have a one-on-one and make a play. So I think Dallas Goedert, yeah, he's a walking mismatch with his size, speed, athleticism, his hands. You have to find a way to get him more involved. And whether that's in the screen game, whether that's more kind of to the stick stuff, I don't know. But it'll be very interesting to see what they do. One thing that I loved from the offense last week, Jason, they were very efficient on third downs, and they were great in the red zone. Walked away with a lot of touchdowns. Last year, you saw a lot of empty trips, a lot of field goals, a lot of going for it on fourth down, not getting it, a lot of turnovers in the red zone. You didn't see that week 1. I would love you when you play a better team like this, you have to do the same thing you did last week. Convert your third downs as much as you possibly can and get 6 as much as you can when you're in the red zone. Exactly. 360 yards against Detroit, 20 yards per catch. Just get him the looks. He was also this far away from scoring a touchdown. Real quick, 3 minutes left before we wrap up. So I know you were at a concert last night, but the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes took down the Chargers and Justin Herbert in a really good game. The Chargers were up 17-7. Chiefs came back and scored 17 unanswered points. It actually might have went above. It actually went to 20 on straight unanswered points. But it was 27-17, and on the final possession with about 2 or 3 minutes left, Justin Herbert took a hit, and they tried to help him up, and he couldn't get. He grimaced and pulled away, and he stayed on the ground. They took him out for a play. They got him off the field. He had to come out for one play. They ran the ball. He comes back in. Every play he's holding, he takes another hit, grimaces on the ground, holds his ribs. There comes a point in time where he escapes pressure to his right on a 2nd and 2 or 3rd and 2, and he comes up with the ball like this. There's no one in front of him, so he easily could have picked up 2 yards if he ran. And he pump faked, and when he pump faked, something happened here, and he pulled it down, and then just threw the ball straight into the dirt. Didn't intend it for anybody. Didn't run for the first down. Just threw it straight into the down and said, "Let's go again." The crazy thing is, he comes back a play or two later and throws one of the craziest passes I've seen in a very long time down the seam over double coverage. Then throws a strike in the end zone for a touchdown, right? But you could tell he was banged up. Are the Chargers? Yeah, Scott. They looked broken, dude. How bad of a look is it? I know he wants to play. At the end of the day, he has some decision, some process in that decision. But how bad of a look is it that the Chargers left their young franchise quarterback in that game in week 2, allowing him to in a 2-possession game, dude? This wasn't a 1-possession game with a minute and a half left. They were down 10 with 2 minutes left. They scored, didn't get the onside kick. Like, you let them in for no reason at the end of the day.
I mean, first and foremost, Justin Herbert's a tough son of a bitch.
Yeah.
To be able to just keep playing that way, because as Scotty said, it's it's definitely broken ribs. But Yeah, I don't think the Chargers, like, it's hard for me because I think your quarterbacks now are basically like your franchise.
Right.
So part of me is like, okay, yeah, it's so dumb for them to do that. But how much power do these guys have, like these quarterbacks?
Right.
Like, it's just, now I get it. Justin Herbert's not Aaron Rodgers. You know, Aaron Rodgers commands probably a lot more respect than Justin Herbert at this point in his career. But Justin Herbert is a great young quarterback, and he is their franchise. Like, whenever you talk about Chargers, the first name that comes up, it's not Austin Eckler, it's not Mike Williams, it's not Keenan Allen, it's Justin Herbert. Like, he is the franchise. So it's tough because we saw, listen, and I know I bashed the guy, but Carson Wentz, like, we saw him play, like, you know, he tried to play through injuries. I can't ever say that Carson Wentz is not a tough quarterback. Right. He is. We saw Andrew Luck, who was a super tough. I mean, the guy retired because of, you know, a bad offensive line. It's hard because you don't know what the conversation is with these guys. Like, they really, you know, but you're right. As a coach, I think it's your job to kind of just say, no, you're out. Like, especially with the game basically out of, like, I get it. They've recovered an onside kick. They had a chance, but man, you're down 2 scores with 2 minutes left on the Chiefs side of the field or on your own side of the field. No, dude, you're done. Like sit down. Let's see what the problem is, and we'll regroup next week. You lost the game anyway, so you risked a week 2 loss and laid more hits on the kid. So I hated the decision. I was literally like, what is he like? Every throw he made, he grimaced. He took a hit. I thought he was gonna cry. Like, he shouldn't have been in that game. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this Friday edition of Trending in the AM. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in live, everyone who commented. Come back, hang out with us this Monday at 8:30 a.m. here live on DSM Media. I'm your host, still filling in for Phil Stifle on Monday, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. With me on Monday will be my man Jason, again, at Mustaine3651 on Twitter. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. We are all over the place. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend.